So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute starters. This is video number 15, and in this video we solve our exercise. So in your exercise there are different kind of solutions. One solution could be look like this if you succeeded to create a program perfect, because this is the first step where we start to create little programs. And here are different variations possible too. For example, instead using this \n, you could of course use this one too, stdc : end line, this command here instead. And this one you would write, but you would write it then this way. You have to include this angel brackets here after no, you would write it directly here instead. Let me show you this directly. You would write it this way. That's, and then here the semicolon, of course. And if we have this one would work too. And the same goes here instead. And you can write this version here would work also. And if you do this one, and the only really difficult part here was really to make this end line here, also to include this line numbers so that it looks like this one, what we have here. That was my that what you should achieve, and later as an app I hope you convert it to a program, because that was the real interesting step here, not to create this one. I think that was just an example. So let's continue a little bit. And before we continue, let me see what I have here. Okay, I have here two variables again, and I hope these two variables are familiar with you. Let's keep one of them here perhaps. This is our int variable, my telephone number, and this is just a string. And here we can make here, for example, Superman is my name now. Perfect. So, and here we talked about a little bit, this was a primitive type and this was not a primitive type. So the point is why I'm talking so much about variables till now. Why is that so important? And I want to show you why variables are really important. And I already told you anywhere that if you understand variables, of course, this is the start of understanding variables because these are basics. But if you understand variables, you covered over 40% of programming almost, right? And if you don't believe me, and I show you here an example program. This example program I found in GitHub. What is GitHub? This is a place where many people release free code and show their work, and you can download or join in, but sometimes you have to ask permission, and so that's very important. So we read a little bit about this code. Let me show you. This looks like this. We go not all through, but we will only focus on variables. Okay, so we start here on top. This is, I hope you know it, instead of green it's here a little bit gray, and it's just comments. Then this one we know too a little bit is our include, but they include another file include. This namespace we heard of that, but not important right now. So now it starts. This is a variable. Okay, our first variable. This one is a use of a variable. Okay, we use a variable and then we call a function with the variable. Okay, something like, I'd say now only the variables because we should go a little bit faster through. So variable, okay, and then the function call and something. So variable, okay, we have again a variable, something like, no, this is a function call or something like that. And then variable use, okay, again variable, and then here variable, okay, and then here in this one we have something like a variable, and then okay, variable, 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 and variable, variable, variable. Okay, More. Variable, 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 variable. Okay, how many variables we have? Variable, 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 and then here variable. Okay, variable. Okay, okay, okay. We get it. Or do we get it? Should I continue a little bit more? I find more variables, 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 and if I go on, you will see almost the whole text contains anyhow a variable, but not the form we know, but it contains a variable. And that means if you can handle these variables, then you understand coding. And the only difference is here, they have all time different use cases. For example, this variable has a full stop here and then goes with a function and then goes with a pointer and then goes to whatever and so on. And these are the use cases which we have to learn. But I said, if we manage to handle variables, and that is the most important part later, what comes now, then we can program. So we are learning just handling variables more or less. And that's very important to know because so we will only learn variables to save, to send, to use, to create, and so on. And what you see right now here are called C++ keywords. And keywords are, you can read this one too, it's a list of reserved keywords in C++, which means these names here you can't use in C++, or you should not use them because they are reserved and they will give you an error only for their purpose. So for example, if you make a variable name, create a variable name, don't name your name like this keywords, but we have to learn all these keywords here. Until now, we have learned only, probably you know this one, int is a primitive type, I said, and primitive type means it is here included in this reserved words. And then we learned a little bit about the float here. It's also a primitive type. It's included in this reserved words. And perhaps you heard about this return a little bit. This we don't learn, but I said in the main function that they use sometimes this return value, but we will learn this a little bit more. So important is here, this words, so this keywords we have to learn, and all keywords here, not all, but most of them are anyhow will handling variables, what we learned. So what I tried to say here, these are more or less intended to use variables, create variables, send variables, compare variables, or make a what is called like a flow chart and control the flow of a variable and so on. So that's very important. And let me show you one more last thing. Here on int, I said integers are full numbers with a range around 2 billion. When I click here on this int, for example, I have to go here to the int type as well. Here are many things to read, not so important. We go down here where it says, not here as well, here where are some numbers, and here are a range. The normal int what we are used are, let's see, this one, and it's a signed int what we use normally, and the range is this one, and I set around 2 billion and plus and 2 billion in the plus here and minus here. That's very important for us to know. If you use bigger numbers, then you can go for this version of an int, which you have then write some prefixes and so on to make it bigger and so on. But we learned this more or less later. Only just info. The same goes for here the float. Let's go click on this one here. The float type is a primitive type again, and here are a lot of things to read and so on. Let's go here. The float we have, oh, that was already here. Here, binary float point. Okay, that was all here. And the point you can see let's see what we have here. Here we have here some numbers, and they say we go from, okay, min, subnormal, min here, and you can see, read here something, the numbers where they go. You see we have a point till this point, and so on. And that's very important to know later when you really need them, because if you need really a bigger number than 2 billion, then don't use a normal integer. Then you have, for example, use a long integer, and a long integer will go then, for example, I don't know if this is really the long integer because it has no sign here, perhaps this one, and if not, you have to watch. And there are much more prefix integer, perhaps there are even customized integers later, but I had start. Important is just that you know integer has a range and the float has also a range, and when you know the range, when you use it, perfect. So the last thing what I want to say here is, let's go back to our keywords. Yes, the keywords we will go on to learn right also in the next videos how to use it, and all are aiming for variables. What I mean for this one, let's say, well, I don't know if we go with this one. For example, this if statement is a condition checker. When we go in, okay, this is all time a bad example here, but here it will check variables for a condition and then it will execute. And this one we will learn. Perhaps we start indeed with if, I'm not sure, but, and what I want to point out is here all this keywords which you see here are aiming, or more or less, to handle variables, right? And that is, here I stop with that, and in the next video we start learning keywords, and of course we are adding them to our program, which is, let's go back to our program here, adding them to our program and write again little programs which we point out. But important is we add them, which means it will bigger. The further we go, the bigger our programs become, and that's why it's very important that you understand all before you go on. That's why it's very good if we go slow, because later the programs are so big that it was good that we start slow and go in this pace instead of rushing to all keywords. All right, that's that. Bye for now and see you in the next.